What up, gamers? Thanks for coming back and checking out my channel. Today I'm going to give you my thoughts and impressions on Spider-Man 2. I guess you can call this like my mini review. I mean, I don't want to spend like 45 to an hour talking about something that I could probably do in about maybe 15 to 20 minutes, but we'll see. We'll get into it and see where it takes us. I might talk less, I might talk a little more, but yeah, thanks for sticking around and let's get right into it. So in about 23 hours, I finished Spider-Man 2, the main story, and woo, what a ride that it was. And I'm still doing side quests and trying to, platinum the game, but let's talk a little bit about just what I've done already, which is finish the main story. So I went in playing Spider-Man 2 without ever reading or watching a comic book. I'm really not a comic book guy per se. I will read or maybe see something I like to read and I'll read it, but primarily I'm not a comic book dude. Sorry to all the comic book aficionados out there. I didn't even watch the 2 Venom movies either. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe at the time, like I know there was one that came out in 2018 and then one in 2020, I think 21, 22. And I really wasn't into the Venom movies. So I don't know if Sony took from those movies or stories or comic books and implemented into this game. I'm going truly blind here is what I'm trying to say. The only probably references that I'll have is watching the Spider-Man movies, all the way back from 2002 up until the most recent one. And then, yeah, I have played Spider-Man Remastered and Spider-Man Miles Morales. So that's all I really have reference to. Let me just say that, man, the first thing that anybody will talk to you about when talking about Spider-Man 2 is the story. The story is just amazing. There was moments where I got a little emotional, especially because Spider-Man 2, it has a kind of a personal touch for me. I know what it is to have, a friend, let's just say a friend just not be there for you like they were before, and they go through ups and downs. So without trying to get into any spoilers, the story really was amazing and it had a special touch to me. I really enjoyed the story from start to finish, at least the main story. What a ride. I mean, so many ups and downs. There was moments where I was like, oh wow. And there was moments where I was like, oh shoot. And there was other moments where I was just like, I didn't see that coming. The story is definitely one of the strongest assets for Insomniac in this game. Every time I put down the controller, because either I needed to go to bed or during the day I had adult things to do throughout my day, I kept thinking about Spider-Man 2 and the story and what's going to happen next. So every time I would come back, I would feel like, at last. And I kept going and going because I just wanted to know where the story would kind of end. So yeah, was the story phenomenal and one of the biggest assets of the game? Big yes, and big 2 thumbs up to the story. If you haven't played this game, just for the story alone, I would urge people to go out and get it. Let's talk a little bit about the visuals. Now, I'm not going to get into every single minor spec, resolution, detail like Digital Foundry does. I'm not going to go in 300% and look at what's here and what's not. At face value, with just normal human eyes, you're going to be impressed. If you've played the remastered for PS4 and PS5, if you played for Miles Morales, which was geared for both consoles at the time, it's phenomenal, right? But I think Insomniac was truly held back because they had to also think about the PS4 version. But when Insomniac themselves found out or knew, I'm assuming, that this was only going to be a PS5 release, oh yeah, not only did they take it a couple notches on the visuals, but they cranked it up, I say, another 10 notches. Now keep in mind, I'd play the game in fidelity mode, 30 frames per second. You know, some people might say, well, that's kind of a little bit slow now, we want 60. I don't blame you, but I wanted to kind of, you know, get all the visual glory that I could first, kind of sacrifice a little bit on the 30 FPS, you know, because I know 60 FPS is kind of like the way to go, but that wasn't my priority. My priority was to look at the game from a visual perspective and not so much as a performance. So yeah, I can tell you that the visuals in their full glory at 30 frames per second did not disappoint. This world looks more vibrant. There's more reflections on the glass, on vehicles. There's more vehicles, there's more people, they look more detailed. The puddle reflections are awesome. There's like puddle reflections everywhere here. And, you know, I think that was sort of one of the things that Insomniac wanted to come back as a triumph and say, hey, PS4 is no longer holding us back. Let's go ahead and give the people what they want. We're going to flood them with puddles and reflections everywhere. So yeah, anywhere in the city that you go to and it's been raining, because there's a good dynamic weather system in there. It's beautiful. It's just, even balloons have reflections. And some of you may know because they've already played the game, but for those of you who haven't, there's an area where you kind of have to sneak around, and that's all I'm going to say. There's also a moment when you swing through those trees and see the rustling of the leaves, how they trail behind you as you swish past them. Those are just some of the things that stood out to me. Obviously, there's so much more. There's so much detail in this game, and you'll just want to take a break from swinging or gliding and just walk around the city, or just, you know, stand somewhere and just take it all in. Once again, they've blown me away. And now in the music and sound department, I'm going to tell you right now, there's nothing to worry about. The game has awesome music that feels adequate for each scene and each fighting encounter, making you feel immersed in basically every single moment. So this is really no complaints from me. It's amazing. Everything that you hear, you can hear people far away, you can hear people close by. There's that spatial audio element, especially if you wear the headphones. I wore the headphones for a while. For some reason though, I think it's my headphones, they were just a little bit too quiet for me. I think owners of the Turtle headset, I think that is something that maybe is a problem, but I could still make out what I'm telling you about the differences in audio. But no complaints there. Spider-Man 2 always delivering phenomenal sound and music. Let's talk about the gameplay. Now this is where I think Insomniac could have improved a touch. I would say 90% of the time the gameplay felt tight, deep, intuitive, and immersive. From, let's say, solving puzzles to just regular combat on the street level, and those big huge boss fights that I can't wait for you guys to play. All those felt really good, and everything that they have learned from the remastered version of Spider-Man and Miles Morales have been tightened up, and it just overall feels good. My only two complaints is the swinging. We'll talk a little bit about the other one, but the first one is the swinging. The swinging felt good, it felt realistic, it felt fluid. But I noticed that there were times where Spider-Man has like a huge delay before he sends off his next web to swing on. And that happens in between tall buildings, it happens in low buildings, it happens in bridges. It doesn't happen all the time, but it happened enough for me to notice. If you've played the game and you haven't felt that, or you have, leave me a comment below. Let me know what you think. My second complaint is the camera. Sometimes during combat, the camera doesn't know what angle to go to and would often get behind walls or other objects, making it impossible to see what was happening. So during big fights or just regular combat, it happened enough for me to notice it. But it wasn't enough to make me feel like it interrupted my gameplay. In fact, even after finishing the story, I still want to go back and platinum the game because the overall feeling of the gameplay for me is thoroughly satisfying. There is so much good that can be said about Spider-Man 2. That video would be much longer. So it's best to keep it short and let you experience the game for yourself if you have that opportunity. Insomniac is literally carrying the PS5 with banger after banger. They clearly understand what it means to build upon its predecessors and to continue to improve their craft game after game. Congratulations to the Insomniac team for creating a worthy sequel that has all of the elements to be nominated Game of the Year, in my opinion. But if not that, clearly it would win several accolades. Well guys, that would do me for this video. Thanks for swinging by and checking out my mini review of Spider-Man 2. Please do me a great favor by web slapping that like button to help the Spider algorithm. See you guys on the next one.